back. Well, right now we are on another very exciting panel discussion on the revolution of value creation, how Treasury can support business model disruption. If you may have any questions for our panelists, our esteemed panelists, you may use the Q&A tab on your screen, type in your questions, and if time allows, we shall pass it to the moderator to take it forward with the panel towards the end of the panel discussion. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for the panelists, we've got with us Mr. Rahul Desai, SVP Treasury, M&A and Investor Relations, Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail Limited. Rahul is a senior professional who's handled other corporate portfolios like enterprise-wide risk management and legal, to name a few, in a career spanning 25 years in telecom, software, and retail sectors. While he's also been a recipient of many professional and personal awards in these fields. We're also joined by Mr. Bhaskar Anand Rao, Chief Financial Officer, Bangalore International Airport Limited. Mr. Bhaskar has, over the course of his 30 years career, managed the finance function for a very large organization and has in-depth knowledge in fundraising, which is equity and debt. We're talking about financial reporting, accounting analysis, M&A, working capital management, risk management, managing startup operations, corporate governance, and team building. We also have Ms. Mukti Hariharan, Director, M&A and Treasury, Hindustan Unilever Limited. Mukti is a seasoned finance professional with 15 plus years of experience over a wide array of finance functions across markets ranging from debt and equity capital raisings, acquisitions, and investing. She's previously worked in Credit Suisse, Morgan Stanley, and the Springboard Ventures. We're also joined by our panelist, Mr. Saurabh Batra, Director, Treasury Advisory. Saurabh has more than 13 years of experience in corporate finance and treasury management as a practitioner in the role of advising clients across treasury value chain and leading a large treasury transformation initiatives. He leads the corporate treasury consulting and cost optimizations business at the EY India. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this entire panel discussion is going to be moderated by Mr. Kapil Singla, the Chief Financial Officer, SR Par Limited. Kapil is a senior finance professional enriched with 25 years of experience across all facets of finance and accounts. A proactive and a result-oriented professional with a verifiable year after year success achieving revenue, profit, and business growth objectives in rapid change environments. Well, with this, ladies and gentlemen, I now present to you our esteemed panel on your stage and screen. May I now request all our panelists to kindly unmute yourselves and welcome to the CFO Summit. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Bhavna, for the kind words.
Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Bhavna. This is Kapil here. So during these tough times, I'm starting this topic, the or evolution of value creation, how Treasury can support business model disruption. So nowadays, the corporate treasury management, it's a specialized part of financial management in enterprises. It has evolved significantly in the recent times. While treasurers used to play a significant role to the CFO in the past, the role expectation from the treasury team has changed. It has become more strategic and it has more influence on the business decisions. Today, as the company evolve on day-to-day basis, they expand into different markets, different geographies. Digitization too has become a key agenda for the treasury. So treasury is not only reshaping its day-to-day operations, but it's also reshaping the way it interacts with the financial market. More importantly, it is transforming the course how business interacts with suppliers, with customers, and with the markets. So it's like doing more with less, along with the other pressures which Treasury is handling, such as cost-cutting pressures, reducing headcounts, compliances, regulatory changes, pushing treasurers to revisit the roles of the people, the processes, and the systems. So we don't know how long this COVID-19 pandemic will going to last. And therefore, it has now become prudent for the treasurers to draw multiple stress scenarios as they plan their liquidity for an extended period of time. We don't know what is going to be this extended period. This will help us to generate a more dynamic action plan wherein today's treasurers are daily looking for liquidity, and only liquidity. All the companies are ensuring sufficient liquidity, which has become a critical for them, where revenue may be compromised in such tough times, but expenses still needs to be paid. In such scenarios, the key areas for the treasurer are analyze the key liquidity drivers, build liquidity stress scenarios, and have a dynamic action plan in place. Liquidity drivers differ according to the company's business model, working capital requirements, external funding requirements, growth plans, and commitment to shareholders. The best way to analyze this is to go back to your cash flow statement and look at every line or subline for the opportunities to release or generate cash. Overall, I can just mention there are 5 action points to work through liquidity plans. These are reduce, release, secure, defer, and identify. So you have to reduce your expenses, identify the fixed cost, optimize opportunities. You have to release the internal cash which is trapped in supply chain or various other by way of cash pooling or mobilize internal cash. You have to secure access to liquidity from external sources like banks, capital markets, wherever applicable. And also look at deferring the spending as well as identify the non-core assets which can be liquidated to generate emergency funding. So while I move along with the topic, I'll ask my panel members a few queries or we can discuss on these points and go ahead with the discussion so that it's more interactive. And you can also throw in your questions, which we can take up either at the end or maybe in between. So the queries which come to our minds in this evaluation of treasuries, how does today's treasurer cope up with the superstorm of risk to be a smart treasurer and keep on the top of innovation? So may I ask one of the eminent panel members, maybe Mr. Rahul Desai, who is a treasury and M&A head with Aditya Birla Fashion, what would be his take on this query of treasurers, how they cope up with the superstorm of risk and build a smarter treasury?
Yeah.
Mr.
So thank you, Kapil. That was a very fine introduction to the to the entire panel, and you made some very, very pertinent points about how treasurers, what are the challenges that treasurers do face today, and how important liquidity and other things are in today's scenario, especially in these COVID times. But I will take up the topic that you've given me. The first question, that is, how should treasurers cope with this, great uncertainty that all treasuries are facing today because of the pandemic, and otherwise also because of the secular trend of volatility which has been increasing over the decades. Actually, in world commerce, finance, treasuries have now taken a very, very significant and central role in uh, you know, uh, mitigating and identifying risks of the entire organization. A large portion of the risk of the organization does sit in the treasury because, most corporations are trading now across geographies, across borders. They are dealing in various instruments which earlier they never used to be exposed to. There's a large amount of compliance that has to be done, and there is a huge pressure that treasuries have today. And we have seen over the period of our careers how treasury has moved more and more central towards the actual functioning of the organization in so many ways. So it's very important that treasurers do take care of not just optimizing your costs and optimizing your returns on your funds and stuff like that, but also take care of the risks that are emanating. A few years ago, you could easily park some money in deposits and, generate a kind of return which was not bereft of, did not have much risk. But today, if you see, even mutual funds, like we all saw how Franklin Templeton had to, uh, had undergone tumult. So if somebody gets, caught in such kind of situations, what does treasurers do? So it's very clear, now that you need to have a very, very systematic process of, you have to have a very, very systematic process of Sorry, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, very true, Rahul.
Can you,
You were
sorry, can you see
telling
me?
that.
I can't,
Yes,
We
yes,
can hear
yes,
you
yes.
now.
I don't know
So
what
you are
happened.
perfectly dot on the point that the process and the way you are
Yeah, so,
explaining
yeah,
about the areas in which you had the larger experience. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Rahul.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point out that it's very, very important for organizations to, have a risk management process and policy with regard to, managing risks. It's very important that every organization treasury has a clearly written down risk management policy, and with objectives to have risk control as well as risk identification, mitigation, and the entire strategy. It's very important to for treasurers to automate. The earlier times when we used to all work on Excel, and every day the Excel models and all, I think those are kind of things that we should move away from. Just like the pandemic is pushing everybody, including all businesses, towards more automation, more IT, similarly, and more intelligence in their operations. Similarly, treasuries will, and it's absolutely essential that treasuries move in that direction of having a very highly automated as well as intelligent and smart treasury management tool, which also has an inbuilt risk module in it. It's very important that we move towards this. Otherwise, we can do as much on Excel only, and it will really put your organization at a huge risk if you are not, up to speed with what is happening on a day-to-day basis. The other thing is you have to also identify what your organization stands for in terms of risk, meaning what is its risk appetite. Clearly identify. Some organizations may be willing to take higher risk, some lower risk. Some organizations may say, hedge all foreign currency exposure. I don't want to take anything. Some may have a tolerance of 10%, 20%. So you have to write down what is your tolerance and what is the attitude of your organization to risk. Some organizations may be willing to take some risk. Some organizations may not be willing to take any risk, saying that the profits of the business must be made by the organization and not by treasury. So it depends on how you want to identify what you want to do. Third is your culture. What is the culture towards risk in your organization, including in our own treasuries? Do we have an effective mid office? Do we have an effective check on what the dealers and treasury heads are doing? So that, empowering your risk management and middle office to be able to stand up to the frontline staff, that is extremely important in today's day and age, because we all may get exuberant. We've seen how dealers behave. They want to take a higher risk. They are very cocksure about what positions they want to take. But it's very important that not only does the tool help the middle management, the middle management are the middle office is empowered to check the risk that the organization is taking, and be able to even stop transactions if there is an over stretching of the risk parameters. Then you also need to empower and provide for your risk managers and your treasury risk management team to get them appropriate training, to give them appropriate measures of how to calculate risk, as well as what is it that they need to do to be able to make sure that the risk parameters are never overstepped by the organization. So these are some of the things that I feel are absolutely essential, uh, that today's treasury heads themselves take to safeguard their own treasuries. This is very important. So I think I want to rest it here, and maybe other people can
Yeah.
also
Thank you,
add
Rahul.
to what
Means
I've said. Yeah.
Rahul is at the helm of the treasury, and he has been dealing in telecom, software, and retail and all. And the insights he gave us, that the risk perception and the other things, it's really means, as me also, I was thinking that I'm learning something from Rahul. It is great hearing to you, Rahul. So in between, have been a question from one of the audience, that how we need to convince bank to keep the same working capital in spite of COVID-19 situation, as it is tough to maintain the terms with customers, vendors, and inventories. So means I can also mention that, see, we have to talk to the banks as our stakeholders. They are not now lenders in this current situation. We have to tell that since this is an unprecedented situation, you have to not act as a lender, but you have to act as a stakeholder. So you have to extend the support to all the businesses, Otherwise, all will fall flat because all the customers, vendors, inventories, all are trying to pull back and they are having scarce resources.
Yeah. So how we handled it, because I am from an industry which was heavily impacted by COVID, which is fashion retail. So we work with our banks not just to enhance support to our own. So we had to work with a few organizations, not just banks. Banks is just one stakeholder in this whole situation, but we work with banks to make sure that we enhanced our working capital limits, because what also happened was that a large part of the capital markets in terms of because of the fiasco with Franklin Templeton and other things, funds in the capital markets, especially commercial paper, dried out in April and May.
Yeah.
It was like there were no deals happening. Only AAA papers were going in the market. So there was such a huge amount of disruptions. Actually, banks have come to the rescue of large number of organizations, and not just the organization's own working capital needs, which expanded because a company like ours always had to pay its vendors, but we were not receiving. I mean, the stores were shut and there was huge disruption to the business. But we also encouraged our banks to work with our vendors and their vendors. Actually, we had a whole program turned out so that the banks could give working capital support not just to us but to our vendors
to
and
vendors
to their
also.
vendors.
So means you are going a step ahead.
Yeah, it is. The situation was such that we worked at breakneck speed at home, and bankers also working like stakeholders with us, and they're working nights, and they have in fact the stellar role played by the banking system is to be acknowledged actually in what happened during the COVID periods, because the capital market just collapsed.
Yeah. So at this point, I'll just like to have some insights of Ms. Mukti Hariharan. She is a treasurer in Hindustan Unilever Limited, on where the treasury and the business intersect. They are the key partners in the transformation. And what should be the intelligent treasury? Means where the treasury and business intersect, and that is the intelligent treasury. What are her views on this? And if she can tell us, the entire audience, something on this.
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. So, see, the fundamental reason for existence of treasury as a function is to act as an enabler for the business. And at the end of the day, supporting business and its growth is the end objective for all functions, and treasury is no exception, right? And as we all know, and you and Rahul also touched upon it, how treasurers should focus on cost optimization, cost reduction, risk management objectives of the business. And I'll just add one more to it. So treasurers today also need to participate in the organizational growth agenda in a big way. And this doesn't come naturally to treasurers, but it's sort of almost changing your goalpost or changing your alignment in the organization, really. So treasurers can help businesses actually delight their customers. And Rahul spoke about this, the program that they run with their banks to finance their partners. We also, as Unilever Treasury, we look at several ways to partner with different functions, be it procurement, supply chain, and then even sales. So we use the network of this phenomenal banking relationships we have to tap into the strength of different banking partners in order to deliver on our business goals. So, for example, we partner with procurement and supply chain functions to get our vendors early payments as well as capital expenditure financing for facilities they're setting up for us at competitive rates. And this is important because if we can get our vendor partners access to funds at reasonable rates and also help them solve their liquidity problems, especially in times such as us, it in turn means lowering cost of operations for us, which means we have more funds to invest in our operations or our marketing. So as supply chain across the world comes under tremendous pressure to cut out inefficiencies in the current pandemic, they're looking for various they're looking for help from various functions, and treasury being at the forefront of how to do things differently, how to use resources more judiciously in order to get the job done. Again, on the distributor and retailer side, we're also running programs to enable access to liquidity to help the ecosystem lash with funds, and which means in turn for us, it supports business growth. So by virtue of being large, you have the responsibility to share resources you have access to in order to preserve livelihoods, help the ecosystem grow. Here, again, treasurers have a very important role to play so that the business doesn't go overboard with the financing alternatives that are available, and also uses them judiciously. So we also partner with our e-commerce and DTC business. So as Unilever, we have a Kirana digitization initiative called My Kirana. We also have Lakme direct-to-consumer businesses. We help them delight the consumers by enabling them do fintech partnerships, seamless payments, collections, and so on so forth. In addition, on the risk management side also, obviously there's a huge business angle. You might decide to leave certain FX risk open or take additional covers, really depending on what the business needs. In this current pandemic, I think it's also become more crucial for organization to work in sync, and the various functions the organizations to work in sync, talk more often in order to keep the business thriving, help the business quickly adapt themselves to changing consumer needs, preferences, cut down the bad complexity, all of which are impossible to achieve if treasury wasn't working almost hand in hand with business. So I'll stop here. I'd like to hear views of some of the other panelists, because I know Bhaskar also had some very interesting things to offer here. So just over to you, Kapil.
So that was a great insight, but would like to add also on this regarding the digital treasury, because what I feel there are 2-3 things which the treasurer should also keep in mind, apart from liquidity management and digital treasury, is the cyber risk and fraud, which the treasurer should be aware of, and also try to take the proper precautions, mandatory training and all, so that they are able to deliver the right things at the right time. So as means we take your points, I'd like to get in Mr. Bhaskar Anand Rao. He is a very senior CFO of Bial Airport. I've heard him several times. I might have worked indirectly also under him, because I was earlier in GVK for quite some time. That time Bial was a part of GVK, and he is very seasoned professional and expert in his field of fundraising and financial and M&A and working capital. How to use digitalization and data to finally release the strategic value of the treasury. Mr. Bhaskar Anand Rao.
Thank you, Kapil, and good afternoon to all of you and the viewers. Excellent.
You got a nice pic of Bangalore Airport behind your.
Yes, it's our terminal, our pride.
Yes, yeah.
So I've heard excellent views from Rahul and Mukti, and they are the experts in treasury. I'm just a CFO. I'm not the expert in treasury, but I'll like to add my 2 bits over here. Excellent. I mean, I've been making notes actually of what they were saying. It's excellent points that they have brought. See, my views are that treasury has traditionally played tactically a very important role of being a watchman. In a sense, keeping a very cautious eye on the corporate cash, minimizing risk, and ensuring that the company's financial assets are safe and sound. I think this was very well captured by both Rahul and Tia. So what I would like to talk more is on the aviation and airport business. And like Rahul said, we are one of those sectors which are really going through a very challenging time during the pandemic. We've lost 75% of our traffic, 75% of revenue during this year. And I would like to, give my response, taking into view all those challenges that we have faced, and how also that digitization and data are so very important today. I would like to say that airports are business of business, and it's digitization and data which matters the most. If I tell you that we have about 700 flights that land and take off, we have about 100 different types of aircrafts that land. We have almost about 50 to 60 partners who work with us, which includes F&B, retail, cargo, fuel farm, ground handling. So all this data, digitization is at the core of any airport, and airport cannot be us, delivering a customer experience or optimizing its resource if not for digitization and data. And treasury forms are central to all of this. So let me just take you back again. This would help you to understand where we come from. Pre-pandemic, the Indian aviation industry has been growing at a phenomenal 15% growth on passenger and 9% on cargo. And this is not 1 or 2 years, entire decade. So this necessitated a continuous program of expansion and capital outlay. And most of the sector players were or are in the midst of major expansion as of now. So treasury activities were all focused on financing this large expansion program. And Bangalore Airport is no exception. We did a financial closure for the current round of expansion of about 13,000 crores. And currently in the midst of this expansion program. So the onset of pandemic, as I told you, the impact has been very charitable and tremendous for us, with 75% lower volume. And we're also seeing a setback of now growth of almost about 2 to 3 years. So the importance of treasury adequately supporting business to meet the short-term and long-term objective has become very relevant. And digital transformation is also a key in optimizing the value to the business. So we think, everything has to come from a business objective, and the key business objective for this airport and the role of treasury that's very interlinked to it are, basically managing and shoring up short-term liquidity to ensure that operations do not suffer and to meet the key objectives of safety, security, and operational efficiency. And continuity is a very important foremost objective. You can't have a airport stopping because we don't have cash. So that's one very key important thing that we are doing. Secondly is, like my co-panelist also said, managing cash flow efficiently. This was by reducing cost, deferring obligation, securing funds to make sure, and the job of treasury is really unavailable in this situation. And my treasurer would very much agree on this fact. In the case of Bangalore Airport, an additional thing, expansion plans, which I've told you, construction is halfway done. So we have to continue to support by providing continuing flow of funds from the equity and debt sources so that the expansion can complete on a very rational or a timely manner. So as an airport operator, we have adopted digital transformation as a key objective in providing better customer experience in the airport. You must have heard about a lot of things that we've done, Digi Yatra, contactless, touchless, etc. So this also has translated to each and every function within the airport. And the objective set for the treasury function is to improve, to bring efficiency, use data to manage both the short-term and long-term needs of the airport. So per me, the entire digitization efforts, goes with a goal, and the goal that we have set up is evolve treasury into a strategic internal business partner. This Mukti brought out quite very well, counted upon to deliver corporate value. Automation leads to improved productivity. So bring automation, look at every use of data, relieving the resources from the routine, repetitive task, and allowing them to focus on better reporting, improving processes, and identify opportunity to create value. And automation and digitization also lead to better financial controls, better reporting, leading to better financial decision. And Rahul actually mentioned about risk. That's very vital and a code in today's, with pandemic, I keep on hearing, just before this, I was with the internal auditors, and he was mentioning about the cyber security risk, talking about frauds that are happening, and we've got to safeguard ourselves in this environment. So, in essence, what I would say is that some of the key methods that we have looked is around partnering with, other concessionaires and other business partners here. So in order to improve our ability to forecast economic impact on the business, improve supply chain performances, and supporting business development, information for strategic decision to the leadership team, and overall to have a better corporate governance. So with this, I'll want to conclude, and of course, I'll be very happy to take, Kapil, your questions, any of my co-panelists' questions, or yours questions.
Later. Thank you very much, Bhaskar Anand. And there have been a couple of queries from the audiences. One I'll take now, one after hearing Saurabh also. What are banks doing to enhance customer interface, especially for online banking? Means, as far as I know, the bank have really worked very hard, and they have accommodated all the requests of the customers. Like we earlier used to send our RTGS request and all a hard copy. But during this pandemic, they have been accepting the soft copies and doing everything. You may be having more experience. What are banks doing to enhance the interface, especially for online banking?
Yeah, Kapil, this is very important. I mean, forget the foreign banks or the privatized banks, even our nationalized bank, SBI,
Yes.
with whom we deal majorly, are giving tremendous support. Most of our payments are actually integrated, where we authorize in our systems and gets accepted by the banks. And we've sort of moved entirely into a digital space. There would be exceptions, and there, of course, the banks agree to what you have said, a digital form of a authorization or a digital signature. But the banks have moved from the physical to a digital in a phenomenal manner, and the support is tremendous over here.
Very good, Bhaskar. It's really a good insight. At this point, I'd like to just have Mr. Saurabh Batra, who is the Director Treasury Advisory with E&Y, to give us some insights on how to future-proof your business with strategic long-term treasury plans. Being he will be able to throw some more light on the future proofing of the business or the steps, and what should be the strategic long-term treasury plan for that. Mr. Saurabh.
Thank you, Kapil. Thank you for the wonderful insights from all the co-panelists. In fact, I have the luxury of coming in at the last, trying to see, whether my views and what I had jotted down as my notes doesn't match with what my co-panelist is saying. So what I'm going to do is probably share the insight that we gather on the street when we talk to our clients on a very, very frequent basis, trying to keep the pulse of the CFOs and the treasurers in mind, from the perspective of what's really driving their priorities. And I'm happy to share with you that, there were essentially 3 buckets where I classified all the priorities that we are seeing in the market in the last few years. Actually, COVID was just a very, very strong trigger point. It was in a way an inflection point for the economy at large at a global and macro level. But many of these things were happening in general, whether it is from a digital standpoint or the stress in the capital markets, it was on there, but COVID just gave it a very, very strong push. So if I have to summarize, and this also is backed by one of the surveys that EY did at a global level, where we asked more than 500 CFOs on what's really the top 3 priorities that they have. The first one that they felt was the very strong shift of supply chains. And, if you go back a little bit back in time, whether it is the US-China trade wars, whether it is the Brexit, all of these are very big shifts within the entire ways in which businesses were functioning, or even climate change for that matter. COVID actually pushed you against the wall, where you had to do something really drastic about the way you were conducting your business, your manufacturing facilities, your supply chains, your vendors, your buyers, everything just, changed drastically. What treasury functions are doing when finance functions have to redefine their operating model is to assist in defining that new operating model that they will have to put in place to make sure that this entire shift of business is handled carefully. So, I have no, embarrassment in saying that maybe 5 years back, it was a real struggle for us to make sure that the treasury functions are thinking digital in the way finance function had already started to think digital, maybe 5-6 years back. What COVID has done, what this entire shift of supply chain has done, that treasury functions are the natural beneficiaries of the CFO function digitalization. And, as we speak, there are more than 4 or 5 clients that come to my mind who have diversified business, global operations. They are redefining their targeted operating model on how they want to run their treasury functions, whether it will be a centralized function, whether it will be in which market, which country they will base their function in, how will they interact with their counterparties, their stakeholders. So that's the first big shift that I've seen. And I think most of the panelists touched that one way or the other. The whole underlying theme around supply chains is probably the most significant priorities that CFOs are dealing with. Hence, the treasury functions have to make good with that. The second one is how digital and data is actually changing the business model itself. customers are buying in a very different way. Vendors want you to interact with them in a very different way. You know, everyone really expects you to change the way you were doing business a few years back. And, you know, buying decisions, the psychology around interact with the company has gone under a significant amount of shift. I don't need to repeat myself, but you know, things what Mukti mentioned around, you know, the whole you know, customer delight and things like how do you make sure that you are making an attempt to tell the customer that, hey guys, we care about your experience, we care about how you buy our services or our product, and we make sure that we interact with them in that way. So one of the biggest ways in which that interaction changes in the way they pay to you. And banks have done a great job in that. Fintech organizations have done a brilliant way, you know, workarounds to make sure that the way you interact with your customers goes into a complete. I think there's a lot of competition which is also made sure that you change the way you're doing this thing, and a lot of foreign competition, you know, coming into our country, you know, into a country and trying to give that customer delight experience. And treasury functions have done a brilliant job to make sure that today when you interact with your customers, your interaction is at that level, you know, which you expect. And this entire digitalization of payments and payment processes is probably the biggest theme that emerged out of that. The last one, and I guess that also got discussed extensively by Bhaskar and Rahul and Kapil, was the entire balance sheet management. You know, and the way the balance sheet management had to keep pace with what's really happening out there. The collapse of the capital market is really a big thing that had happened, and not only in India, globally as well. What I would like to mention here, as far as balance sheet management is concerned, and probably last 4 months were the most pronounced situation for balance sheet management. I think a lot of global treasury companies or companies who had great or good banking relationships have done immensely well to make sure that banks, as Kapil mentioned at the beginning, are really looking at themselves and the organization as key stakeholders in the ecosystem. And they've done brilliant management of making sure that all the types of exigencies, all emergency funding lines, all new age funding products, whether it is vendor financing or, Rahul brought up a very, very interesting concept. I think in 2 years of time, we will be discussing that in this forum probably, is this whole concept of deep tier financing. Deep tier financing, as the name suggests, basically means financing the tiers below your primary vendors, going down to the level of the fourth or the fifth vendor in the chain. I mean, you can easily imagine that in the auto sector or in the retail sector, but deep tier financing driven by blockchain or driven by some of the new technologies is an excellent way to make sure that not only the vendor ecosystem is healthy, but also ensuring that your working capital is managed in a better way. So I think today banks are doing it, more hands on the job manually, but in the times to come, all of this will be more digital. So, just to summarize, disruption in supply chain, leading people to redefine their target operating models, one of the biggest priorities. The second one being data and technology changing the way with which you interact with your customers, keeping up with that by partnering with banks and fintech organizations. This is the second theme that we saw. And the third one is balance sheet management, looking at innovative ways and moving away from bank-led financing to more innovative ways is the third theme that has emerged. These are the 3 points. I think we've touched that in various, conversations today, but I just thought I'll just take the liberty of bucketizing it in terms of the priorities that we've seen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Saurabh. I think the 3 more points, major points which you gave, this will really help us to strategize our long-term treasury and to future-proof our business. In the meantime, there has been a question from the audience for Mr. Rahul. I'd like, especially being a retail player, how retail player without parentage convince bankers to extend or enhance the facility? Means how a retail player who doesn't have a parentage convince the bankers to extend or enhance these facilities?
Yeah, tough question in terms of, it is tough for smaller retailers who are independent retailers to get, in the times of pandemic, we saw that even companies like ours had a sort of a liquidity crunch when, we could not raise any commercial paper in the market. A lot of banks had frozen their limits on the retail and apparel sector. So it is tough. It was tough, not just for, it was tough even for large corporations like us. The only other thing I'd like to tell people with, who are in retail and may not have parentages, try to finance your businesses more through equity. I mean, a little bit of, if you see even in India, I mean, if you see a trend, or most of the people are either funded by private equity or are, heavy on equity. Even if you see our conduct now, we've learned our lessons. We've already brought in 2,500 crores of equity in the last 2 months. So, I think retailers as a business, we should not really rely too much on debt financing for our growth as well as our existing requirements for, because the business is quite cyclical and it is quite prone to a lot of risks. I think the best way to finance our business is to try and shore up your equity, try and convince, because our proposition is very long term. Our brands are quite salient in the market. So I'd like to tell the audience, I mean, the person who asked the question from the audience, that, try and shore up your equity. I mean, it is very, very critical that, retail players especially do not finance themselves from, go overboard in the debt financing. I think that's very key, and it's easier said than done. I'm not saying it's easy, but you will have to convince the banks to tell you that, that you are going to reduce debt by an infusion of equity. So please help me in the short run to manage my, my COVID situation. But the solution to this is definitely an infusion of equity. Debt can only go up as far, and India, we have had this problem of debt for the last probably a decade or so, where most businesses tried to fund themselves with debt and have, found themselves in a very, very tight corner. I myself come from an organization which was, in telecom, where, large chunks of debt were taken, and, businesses could not sustain it. So I think retail is another one of those businesses which cannot, fundamentally be funded from debt.
Thank you, Mr. Rahul. In fact, now as I was seeing the audience question, Mr. Bala has also further asked, going forward, how do one see the treasury style of investing change? How does the treasury style of investing changes over a period of time? Anyone from the panelist, or should I take up? See, what I feel is that the treasury style of investing is going to change, in particular because the companies will now look not block the funds for long gestation projects. They like to have more liquidity in hand because of the pandemic and the current scenarios. They will not like to block their funds in any debentures or any NCDs or any bonds which are having a more lock-in period or so. So that has definitely changed. And secondly, they may not eye for a more return if they are having a surplus cash, but their more target will be to that the fund should be available to them whenever it is required, though they may get a lesser return.
Yeah, I think Mukti runs a treasury, a very cash-rich treasury, and it's her. I think,
Mukti,
job.
your views on this?
Yeah, absolutely. No, fair point. So, I think for us, honestly, nothing has changed in the way we manage funds, and that's largely because of the sound principles on which we run it. So for us, safety comes first, and then the second thing is liquidity, and the third thing is return. So as we look at, parking, the surplus funds that we have, we always look at these three principles in that order. So we've always biased, we have always sort of erred in favor of safer instruments. While return is something we obviously have an eye on, and we want to deliver something which is in line with the benchmark. But going to the point of risk management that Rahul had raised, I think it's really about balancing that risk and return equation for us. So for that matter, it's really
so that's very good 3-word point, SLR. So you have to look for SLR as Mukti said, safety, liquidity, and return, which can be easily memorized by any of the audience. Yeah. So in treasury, the investing has to be done in the way of SLR. So you have to see the SLR, safety, liquidity, and return.
Yeah, I think the onus on making profits should always be on business. I think I'm very, very certain about this principle. And, as far as as far as treasury is concerned, yeah, we must make some return and all, but the onus of profit cannot be on treasury. Then you will have problems of overreach and all sorts of issues you will get into. So in terms of even going forward, in a world where, as we've seen decadally, the volatility is increasing, I do not think it is a central role of treasury to generate profits.
So as we move ahead, there is one more question. Say, as value creation with high risk entities in banks is growing up, or there will be more mergers and acquisition and consolidation in the banks, which is going to happen. So anyone else from the panel?
This is related to banks.
Yeah. Saurabh, will you be okay to take?
I think the RBI is waiting for some more cleanup to happen before they consolidating more within the PSU space. A lot of consolidation has already happened in the last few years, but more to come. I was just going through one of the comments made by one of the lead analysts who's tracking the M&As in the financial services sector very closely. Both in terms of NBFCs and banks, there is more consolidation to come. And you won't be even surprised if some of the private banks look to join hands. And we've seen some of them struggling with their balance sheets and their capital adequacies. So just quick answer to that one is yes, there's more consolidation coming your way. Some of them will be forced consolidation by RBI actions. Some of them will be, no choice but to consolidate with some of the bigger ones. So yes, there's going to be more.
Thank you, Saurabh. Kanupriya Parashar, I think your query is aptly answered by Saurabh. So I think that's all in the conclusion. I'll just like to conclude this, that now it's the treasury is going to be a paradigm shift in the treasury. The intelligent technology will take place, and they will drive all the treasury applications. And cash pooling, like surplus cash pooling and all, to be zeroed down at one point of time, at one place, are going to be the in thing. And today, as the companies evolve, we have to have a clear transition process, common sense, one team and one purpose. There will be focus on the change management. And we understand that there should be a clear vision around across the liquidity, transaction, and the structure. That is what we look forward. Any other questions from the audience
Yes, Mr. Kapil, there's one more audience question. I just got it, so I thought I'll just share it with the panelists out here.
Yeah.
It is any specific modules or tools for digitization of treasury that's asked by Mr. Acharya. And we believe we've already, the panel's been very kind. They've already answered 4 of our audience questions, and this being our 5th. So, Mr. Singla, if you'd like to direct that to any of your esteemed panelists right now.
No.
Ma'am, I can take that.
Yeah, okay.
Sure.
Okay. So, that's a very interesting question. In fact, there are many choices. If you look at the landscape of treasury digitizations, so we have in the market some of the ERP-led platforms like SAP, which are very popular. SAP Treasury Management Module is quite popular. But what you struggle with, these sort of platforms is their ability to deliver to you all the kind of insights that as a treasury function head or as a CFO you want to take. So what companies are doing as a combination is to look at a platform or an ERP-led platform as a deal recording system and making use of all the agile technologies and analytical platforms. I think in one of the other forums, we were talking about using of new age business intelligence softwares like Tableau, Power BI, and some of these. So these are what are called as the data visualization platforms. So combination of a treasury system and a data in a platform, analytics to deliver all of these things is what we are seeing industry, going in that direction. There are other cloud-based platforms. One of them is becoming quite popular called Kyriba. These are more attuned to managing payments and cash flows and cash forecasting and things like that. So there are a lot of alternatives that treasury functions today have. I think it's a balance between what you want to spend from an overall budget perspective and what you need to solve. And many of these are modular. So one of the most agile way in which we are seeing treasury functions use digitization and some of these platforms is using a combination of bespoke analytics, using of softwares like R, Python, and data visualization techniques, using a combination of these to deliver their outcomes.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Batra. We do still have another 8 minutes in hand, and the questions, I believe, are still pouring in. I'll keep asking. Right now, we've already finished with 5 incredible questions from our audience. But whilst we, in case in the 8 minutes time we have, if we get more questions, I'll ask. But I'd love to have some concluding remarks for our eminent panelists as well. So if we could have Mr. Rao, starting with you, sir, if we could have your concluding remarks on about the entire panel. So over to you, please.
Thank you, Bhavna. I think the panelists, sort of delved into it very, very effectively. What I would like to speak about over here is, this is a period of uncertainty. This entire pandemic, I mean, it's not over. We just seen part of it probably, and one of the key things that we have realized, the central theme of this pandemic is uncertainty. And there's a lot of risks that we have still not unraveled, a lot of risks that we still do not understand. And we do not know how long this is going to happen. So some of the key things from a treasury perspective that I would, suggest all my co-panelists as well as the viewers, my humble two penny over here, is that be conservative, do not take risks, which I think Mukti brought out very well and nicely coined by Kapil, SLR. I mean, that's been something that we've been from a infrastructure sector, we've always been maintaining that, look, we do not want to make money out of our treasury operations. Our hard-earned money should be there for meeting the objective with which we have gone ahead. I mean, in case of airport, to make sure that we do our investments in expansion to meet the customer requirement, and also to give a customer experience that's unparalleled. And that's where our money should be used. And we've been very conservative in the way we managed our treasury. But I think this is something that every treasury should do at this particular moment of time. And that would be my two penny over here.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Rao. That's amazing. While we have 6 minutes in hand, I'd like to go to Ms. Hariharan first. Ma'am, if you'd like to give some concluding remarks to you from your side to our audience as well.
Sure, absolutely. So this has been an enriching session for me personally to get perspective from my panelists, Bhaskar, Rahul, Saurabh, Kapil. I think, for a few themes that emerged out of it, really for me, which, made an impact. So digitization and use of data is disrupting the way business is done. And, it's very clear treasury and, various treasurers, they're using different tools to digitize the treasury function as, to keep pace with the overall organization. For treasury, I think increasingly important to focus and align with the organizational priorities, and which might be different from, the historical priorities that we as treasurers are focused on. But really to be able to deliver in this pandemic, keep the business thrive, I think really important for us to change our ways of working. If it's investments, so be it cash management, risk management, everything needs to be looked with a fresh perspective. We need to really make use of the crisis to rethink and change some of these ways of working to be able to, effectively grow in the, changed market context.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ms. Hariharan. Always a valued conclusion that is. I'd also like to go to Mr. Desai. We've got 5 minutes more, and I always like to have the panel talk to the audience in our valuable time. So over to you, Mr. Desai, please.
So as Mukti said, have learned quite a lot from the panelists, and I'd like to reiterate, this thing that Mukti said. I also started in my initial thing also saying that the treasury function has to become more and more central to the functioning of the whole organization. As she said, treasury has to enable the effective partnering of the business with its vendor system and its dealer system, both. Actually, we do facilitate now stronger financing abilities, not just for our, as Saurabh said, the deep tier financing. So, the financing of the vendors and their vendors and their vendors, but also on the dealer side. So we have been effectively helping the whole organization on in a 360 division, I mean, on a 360 degree basis to help, enhance and make the business more efficient and do only that part of the business which we are supposed to do. Not funding your vendors or funding your dealers, those kind of things, I think best left to the banks. What we should do is preserve our cash to improve our own businesses. And, because our own business may need, investment in brand building, in innovation, in digitization. I think digitization, people are still underestimating the power of digitization. Indians have still not understood it. Machine learning, AI, these are absolutely essential. I mean, Bhaskar put it very, very succinctly, very, very poignantly to say that without digitization, actually, there's no future for any business. And, airports, he said, require a huge amount of digitization. But believe me, Bhaskar ji, that in our business like retail, or the kind of analysis that you need, per SKU, per this, who bought it, which store bought it, which region bought it, it's mind boggling. In fact, sometimes, yeah, I mean, for you also, it's the same thing, because who bought it, what? I mean, retail is a big part of an airport.
This is the age of big data.
So yeah. So big data, without that, I think there's no future. I think, lots of organizations must shore up their equities and then invest in this. Let banks fund your vendors, enable it. Let banks fund your dealers, enable it. But put your own money in your own business and grow it, and you will have to, put money behind your brands, behind your own processes, behind your own. So I think treasury is very, very essential to make this thing happen. And please fund your businesses with equity. I mean, don't try to over leverage yourselves. We've seen in India that, companies which had over leveraged have fallen by the wayside. I mean, you will not find even one or two examples, except the big one that we know, who overfunded with debt and is able to come out of it. But essentially, we'll not be able to come out of it. So risk is very, very critical. And the biggest risk that you take is when you over leverage on debt, not when you make investments here and there. That's not the thing. So let's, I think that's what I wanted to say.
I want to add just one more to what
please,
Rahul
Mr.
said.
Rao.
And Rahul has told this very important thing, that digitization, the benefits of digitization cannot be undervalued at all. Especially now when cost optimization and improving employee productivity is so very essential. The only way you can do is to, give adequate digital tools, upskill the employees so that, you get better productivity.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Rao. And I'm loving the conversation between all our luminaries in the panel discussion, because everyone's adding to their points, and that's what the panel discussion is all about. I'd quickly like to just go to Mr. Batra at the end, and Mr. Singla has already concluded from his behalf, but I'd like to get a word from him as well. But Mr. Batra, we've just got another minute. If you could quickly conclude as well.
I won't take more than 30 seconds. I think I'll pick up that Bhaskar left right at the end, which is about upskilling people. So I think when we talk about future-proofing our treasury functions, future-proofing the skill sets within your own team probably is also the biggest challenge that we've all faced. When we go out and hire today, and coming from consulting background, we've traditionally always hired people with functional skills, people who understand markets, people who understand, finance. We are being pushed by our customers to look for those skills, which is a very strong blend of technology, data, analytics, and markets and function. I think when these two skill sets come together, only then can you either future-proof your own treasury function or for anyone else that you're supporting. So that's my concluding remarks. Talent management is very important right now.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Batra. And Mr. Singla, what an excellent moderation this has been. We'd just like concluding 30 seconds if you'd want to say anything further. Mr. Singla?
Yeah. Thank you, Bhavna. It has been really, means if I summarize the takeaways of all the 5 experts, at them, so there are 5 steps to a more effective global treasury, we can say. You have to centralize your treasury function. You have to strengthen the governance, number 2. You have to increase the accuracy of the cash flow forecasting. Number 4, you have to manage working capital in the market. And number 5th and most important, you have to enhance treasury management system by digitization. So your governance, centralization of treasury, digitization, and increasing your forecasting and managing the working capital. These are the 5 mantras of effective treasury management. That's all.
Wow. So, Mr. Singla, I love the way you can point out with all your pointers, and that just shows the sort of experience you carry in this field. So thank you so much for that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with this, I'd like to once again thank our eminent panelists for joining us. A big, big thank you for being a part of this virtual summit. I hope you all had a great time, and I hope the attendees as well had a great time. Thank you once again to our panel.
Yeah,
Thank you,
Bhavna.
everyone.
Thank you,
Excellent-
Kapil.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Excellent
you all.
moderation. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I second that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Now, new way of saying hello. Thank you.
Absolutely.
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 Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.